Why, hello there, YouTube, and welcome to a special edition of Horror Talk. So, it is Werewolf Week on this channel, and I thought, why not do, rather than me discuss another horror franchise, every now and then I like to discuss something else in horror other than a horror film series. And because it's Werewolf Week this month, I am going over the Werewolf Mythos. Yes. So, werewolves. They're creatures that they're like infamous creatures that have come around in mythology throughout the centuries, from Eastern Europe to Native Americans to fiction and literature. The werewolf is a creature that is half man, half wolf. It either has the body of a man and the head of a wolf, or they're a wolf-like creature in the face. Either way, they always have furry bodies, as they are werewolves. So a werewolf, often referred to as a lycanthrope in Greek mythology. Lyco is an Old English word for wolf. Thrope is Old English as well as Greek. Is Old English for half man. So basically a lyco and a heart and a thrope, lycanthrope, to eventually lycanthrope, or Lycan for short. The only film series that I know of that uses the term lycanthrope, or at least the word Lycan, is the Underworld franchise. So, Lycans. Yeah, in Underworld they're depicted as different creatures to the werewolves. Werewolves don't transform at will, and a Lycan can. Either way, they are the same creature in most mythologies. So, werewolves. What is their strengths? Well, obviously, in the lights of the full moon, the shape-shifting creature is at its active the most. The power of the full moon brings out the insanity in all of us, and I would say it brings out the animal in us. Especially for the werewolf, these words are literally true. The way their body reforms itself. During a werewolf transformation, they say that the creature, first their heart stops, so they suffer a heart attack. Then their organs close down, such as their kidneys and lungs. Basically, their whole body shuts down whilst the body reforms itself. Basically, the werewolf goes into whole organ failure, yet they remain fully conscious as the transformation happens. The bones break and mend harder, the skin tears and mends tougher. Their nails become claws, their teeth fall out and come back sharper. Their senses are heightened and they are transformed. For the werewolf, I assume that the most painful part of the transformation is the skull, given that has the most reforming, the way the face is forced to be pushed out. Of course, the slow transformation effect was not introduced until the 1981 film An American Werewolf in London. That film gave us the modern werewolf transformation, and since then that's what horror cinema has been going at with werewolves. Before that, it was like all camera cutting and fading, stop motion and that, such as ones we see in the 1941 film The Wolfman, starring Lon Chaney Jr. So, werewolves. How do you kill a werewolf? Well, people's logical answers to that would be the silver bullet, or mercury bullets. Of course, this whole silver bullet trope was not introduced until the 1935 werewolf film called Werewolves of London. I think that's what the film is. Either way, the silver bullet to kill werewolves was not introduced till then. Given that werewolves are cursed creatures, silver is a curse to them. Of course, if you know the whole story of Judas, when he betrayed God, he took a bag of silver, and then silver became a curse to the cursed. It's also been known to harm vampires, but for werewolves, considered deadly. But werewolves or their actual weakness is mercury bullets. But these days it has evolved into silver. So, werewolves. What else is there? Well, a werewolf is a man or a woman that transforms in the light of the full moon, as I've just already explained. So, how do you become one? Well, like vampires, they are made, and sometimes, in some literature, they are born wolves. And of course, in some myths, when there's a red moon, that is when werewolves can conceive organic werewolves. Werewolves known as purebreds. And, of course, if you're mortal and human, if you're scratched by a werewolf or bitten by one, then by the following month you will too transform into a werewolf. Of course, werewolves aren't full-time creatures, they're only part-time. During the month they appear mostly as human, and 1, 2, 3 nights a month, 3 maximum, they transform into the creature in their full form. And as I say, a bite or a scratch is enough to turn a human into a werewolf. And of course the signs you get from becoming one in what is called lycanthropy. You have heightened senses. You feel a craving for meat and the thrill to hunt. And of course your senses heighten. Your sense of smell, taste, hearing and sight. Your strength grows as well. You become confident in yourself as your inner animal emerges from you. The first transformation is said to be the most painful, but throughout time the transformation gets less and less painful. Werewolves can also be virtually immortal, given the fact that they can regenerate their cells constantly regenerating, causing their body to slow down and metabolism to slow. Basically like Wolverine in the X-Men. That's how I can put it. So, where do werewolves come from? Well, like I say, there's worlds of myths out there. In some countries, they don't even have werewolf folklore. It's like in Africa, for example, they have werepanthers or were-tigers. No, not that's Indian. Were-cats, like were-panthers, were-leopards. And in Indian folklore, it goes as far as were-tigers. Yes, that is my hand in the mirror back there, if you can see. Yes, the mythos. So, yes, the werewolf can transform. I'm talking about werecats in a minute. In Native American folklore, they don't just have like the werewolves, but they also have werebears. Werebears. Of course, throughout the last 10 to 20 years alone, werewolves in literature, I feel, have died down a lot. In True Blood, they are depicted as the same as the shapeshifters, only they can shift into one animal, which is a wolf. In the Vampire Diaries, apparently they're born wolves and they can only activate their wolf gene by killing another. And of course in other things like Being Human, both the US and the original, they transform one night a month in the full moon. Werewolves have been depicted and reimagined so many times, but for me, the werewolf to me is tall, has the body of a man, the feet of a wolf, the head of a wolf, and dark fur all over their bodies. To me, that is what a werewolf looks like. And of course, I would also settle for a werewolf that has fangs, facial hair, pointed ears, foreheads and all that. Wolf-like in the face. But yes, I don't think there has been a good werewolf movie or TV show since we got Teen Wolf or Dog Soldiers. Of course, werewolves have, been part of horror for so long, and I find them underrated. They are the rival of vampires, and me, I have been a werewolf person. I have loved werewolves. I'm so fascinated by their transformation from when they look human to a beast. And one of my favourite Doctor Who episodes is Tooth and Claw. from the 10th Doctor era, there was an episode called Tooth and Claw where the Doctor encountered a werewolf. Yes, lycanthropy it's also known as. So, there are many myths and stuff. One myth I would say is in Greek mythology, where there was a fierce person named Lycan, and Zeus came down and took human form and saw that Lycan eats people and tried to convince the king of gods to eat flesh as well. When Zeus saw this, he cursed Lycan and turned him into a ferocious beast known as the lycanthrope or werewolf. And of course in other myths there's different versions. And of course, lycanthropy and horror, werewolves have inspired truth things, such as in France in the 1700s there was a case of the Wolfman, a real werewolf creature, which was said to be a deranged man dressed as a wolf, which was proven so. But even then the attacks didn't stop. They discovered another creature, but it was then later seen as a hyenodon. So werewolves, they take on different shapes and forms, as I say. In Harry Potter they are depicted as big wolf-like creatures with human physiques. To me, I like those werewolves, not werewolves that transform into a full, normal-looking wolf. No, I don't like them kind of werewolves. I like the real werewolves where they're upright. And pretty much like what we see in Dog Soldiers and the Underworld films. And American Werewolf in London, the creature walks on fours, but they are still a good werewolf. And yeah, it was the 80s. The Howling as well is a good werewolf film, how they depict the werewolf creature. The film Late Phases, which I thought was a disappointing film, but had good werewolves. Werewolves are said to be also controlled by witches, well, allies of witches, as witches and werewolves have that common enemy, vampires. I don't know what it is that has vampires and werewolves against each other. Maybe it's the whole, what is it? The whole thing like cats and dogs don't like one another? I don't know. In the Underworld franchise, though, it is pretty much, yeah, I get why they're enemies, because Lycans were slaves to vampires and they had a revolution and started the Underworld War. Yes. Werewolves and... yes. So other weaknesses werewolves have. You see, there's not just silver bullets. You can also kill a werewolf by beheading it, piercing the heart or the brain, or separating the brain from the heart, with silver killing the creature. Other things that are also with the wolf, like vampires don't like garlic, werewolves don't like wolfsbane, which is a type of mistletoe. Mistletoe is like their version of garlic, and is also called wolfsbane. I don't know if wolfsbane is a different herb to mistletoe, but still mistletoe I believe is just as effective. But of course that was something I looked at in Doctor Who. Maybe it is just wolfsbane. So if you're cursed, how do you lift the curse? Well, there are ways you can do it. You need to find, first of all, you need to find the wolf that cursed you. You need to find them and kill them by separating the brain from the heart with silver. Either cut their head off with a silver object, or stab them in the heart with a silver object, or better, eat out their heart. Me, to make sure I do lift up the curse, I will behead my maker and eat out his heart. That is how I will be assured of the curse. But even if I do, I don't care. I would love, I think I would like being a werewolf. Of course, every time I do like a quiz on Zimbio or something, and it's a quiz on what supernatural creature you are, mostly it comes out as a werewolf. I love werewolves. I even have one tattooed here on my arm, if you can see it, as I've shown many people so many times. Yes, werewolves I find so fascinating, and like vampires, I think in 100 years' time we will still be telling stories about them, because like vampires, they are immortal. in literature and folklore, and that's pretty sweet. Yes, the werewolves, lycanthropy. Well, I don't know if I have anything more to add on about werewolves, about their mythos or folklore. So, have you learnt something new about werewolves? Do you perhaps know something now that you didn't know before? What do you think of werewolves? Do you like the creatures? Let me know down in the comments below, and if you like this video, be sure to give it a big thumbs up. Don't forget to share with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and to hit that notification bell. All of my social media links are linked down below in the description, and you can watch all of Werewolf Week so far on my channel, which will be linked in a post box somewhere up above on this video. So, that's it for this special edition of Horror Talk, the Werewolf Mythos. So, until next time, don't have nightmares. Ow! I can do a lot better howling, my throat's just dry. Anyway, yes, as Queenie Todd, my horror sister, as she always says, howl at the full moon. Yes, because she too loves werewolves just as much as I do. Anyway, yes, I've gone on enough now, so werewolves and horror go hand in hand. So yes, that's pretty much it for this video. So yes, so enjoy the rest of Werewolf Week.